The first sound that morning wasn't birds or wind. It was the low, groaning snap of timber giving way. I'll never forget it. 1 second, Karen's silver SUV was crawling across that old bridge like she owned the world, and the next, the headlights tilted toward the creek as the whole thing folded beneath her. There was no movie-style explosion, no dramatic scream, just a long, heavy creak, a splash, and silence. I remember standing there in my boots, rain dripping off my hat, staring at the bridge closed sign, half bent beside me thinking, she actually did it. She ignored every single warning. That bridge had been my headache from the day I bought the property. Just a narrow timber span crossing the creek built back in the 70s, long before the HOA ever existed. It led to my private drive, but the HOA president, a woman named Karen Aldridge, treated it like it was her personal runway. You could smell the entitlement coming before you even saw her perfume mixed with pure authority. The first time she introduced herself, she was literally measuring mailbox heights with a ruler. I said morning and she glanced up like I'd interrupted a royal decree. You'll need to repaint that fence, she said. Not even a question. It's not HOA compliant. I told her the fence wasn't under HOA control. She frowned like I'd spoken blasphemy. Everything here falls under HOA standards, she declared. That word, standards, was her gospel. She said it like it could fix the world. But when my contractor told me the bridge's supports were rotted and unsafe for heavy vehicles, I didn't think about standards. I thought about survival. I hired him to rebuild it, but until then I closed it off big steel posts, orange warning signs, reflective tape. Everyone understood except her. Day one, she called me in full outrage. You can't just close a community bridge without board approval, she snapped. I explained calmly that it wasn't a community bridge. It was part of my deed. Until I see proof, she said, I'll consider it shared property. Remove your barriers immediately. I offered to show her the papers. She said I don't need to. I'm the president. The next morning, my signs were gone. The day after that, the tape was ripped down and tossed into the creek. So I put up a trail camera. That night's footage looked like a crime documentary. There she was, flashlight in hand, her little dog yapping while she ripped up my caution tape like it had personally offended her. I printed a still frame of her mid-rip, taped it to the post, and wrote, "Smile, you're on camera." The following afternoon, she was waiting at the end of my driveway, arms crossed, jaw locked. "You're harassing me," she said, "recording me without consent." I told her filming trespassers was legal. She threatened to fine me for defacing community property. "It's my bridge," I said. She smiled that thin, dangerous smile. "We'll see about that." 2 days later, my neighbor texted me during the HOA's emergency meeting. Karen had apparently declared the bridge a critical access route and accused me of endangering the community. When Sam, my neighbor of 30 years, reminded her that the HOA had no jurisdiction, she shot back. Then why have I been using it for years? That's when I knew this wasn't about rules anymore. It was about control. The storm hit the following week. Rain came down so hard it blurred the world into gray. By morning, the creek had swollen into a brown river, battering the old timbers. I replaced the barricades again, hammering in a new danger unsafe bridge sign. I remember looking up just in time to see her car crawl toward the barrier. She got out, wrench in hand, loosened the bolts like she'd done it 100 times, and pushed the post aside. I shouted, "Stop! It's not safe!" But she yelled back, "I have a board meeting. I don't take orders from you." Then she hit the gas. The crack that followed didn't sound real. It sounded like a bone snapping in the earth itself. The deck sagged. The car tilted. Then the whole bridge folded. She dropped into the muddy water below, headlights still on the creek, swallowing her car up to the hood. I called 911, ran with a rope, helped pull her out. She stood there shivering, mascara streaking down her face, screaming that I'd set her up. When the deputy arrived, I handed him the inspection report, the photos, the emails. He looked at her and said quietly, "Ma'am, looks like you ignored the signs. You'd think that would have ended it. You'd think almost dying might humble someone." But 2 days later, a certified letter showed up. Karen was filing a claim against me for negligence and property damage. Then came HOA violation notices one after another, creating a hazard. Improper signage, obstructing community access. Every morning, a new envelope. My wife Sarah said, "Ignore her. She feeds off reactions." I told her I wasn't feeding Karen, I was documenting her madness. Sarah smirked. "That's still feeding her." And maybe it was, because Karen thrived on attention. When fines didn't get a rise out of me, she started spreading rumors. She told neighbors I'd sabotaged the bridge on purpose to collect insurance, claimed I'd bribed the inspector, even printed fake newsletters about unsafe private structures in the community. It was like living next to a tabloid. So I decided to fight back the only way that worked, with paperwork. I got the county inspector to re-verify everything, filed new permits, hired a contractor to rebuild with steel reinforcements, and installed motion cameras on both sides. This time, if Karen so much as looked at the bridge, I'd have it on film. Sure enough, she showed up again, heels sinking in the mud, clipboard in hand. "You're liable for my car," she said. I told her the county had cleared me. "Then we'll let the HOA decide," she snapped. When the inspector arrived and confirmed the land was private, her face froze like ice cracking. For the first time, she had no words. But Karen didn't lose gracefully. A week later, pink paint appeared across the bridge railings, swirling designs like a toddler's tantrum. A note was taped to the post. "Your color choices violate HOA palette guidelines." When the sheriff came, he just shook his head. "She really doesn't quit, huh?" The next day, she was back with a paint roller this time. I caught her mid-stroke humming like she was on HGTV. "Restoring community aesthetics," she said. When the deputy arrived, he told her to put the roller down or face trespassing charges. She hurled the roller into the creek and stormed off, yelling something about implied easement. That was the beginning of her unraveling. First, she lost her presidency after the board finally saw what she'd been doing. Then she started sending anonymous complaints to the county claiming my bridge caused water diversion that flooded her yard. When that didn't stick, she started posting online under fake accounts calling me a rogue homeowner endangering public safety. It turned into a digital war. Eventually, the police got involved again after I found a steel chain stretched across the bridge like a trap. The deputy said, "This isn't petty anymore. This is criminal." When they questioned her, she denied it, but neighbors had seen her car parked by the trail. For the first time, she looked scared, not angry. Within weeks, she'd moved out house up for sale. I thought it was finally over. Then came the letter. 3 pages typed. "Formal notice of pending civil action," it said. Except this time she wasn't suing, she was accusing. Claimed she'd uncovered financial irregularities in the HOA's bridge fund and was reporting me for embezzlement. My lawyer laughed, but the county still had to investigate. It delayed everything for 2 weeks. I realized she didn't need to live here to keep haunting me. Soon after, an anonymous blog popped up. The Timber Creek Truth. Photos of my house, drone shots of my bridge, wild stories about corruption and cover-ups. Everyone knew it was her. The sheriff told me, "She's not after justice. She's after control." And he was right. By the time she was arrested again for violating the restraining order and tampering with my property, it wasn't even anger I felt. It was pity. The police later found a wall in her rental cabin plastered with photos of me, red strings connecting names, notes about my wife, my job, even our grocery schedule. She'd built an entire world in her head where she was the hero fighting corruption. The last time I saw her was during her arraignment. She showed up in a blazer talking to reporters like she was some whistleblower. I didn't say a word. I just waited until the trial ended and the restraining order became permanent. That night, I stood on the bridge looking at its reflection on the water. It used to feel like victory. Now it just felt heavy. Then winter came and the creek froze solid. For the first time, everything was still. One night, I walked out there alone, snow crunching under my boots, and for a second, I thought maybe peace had finally returned. Then my phone buzzed a text from an unknown number. Bridges can burn twice. I stared at the message, the words glowing cold against the dark. Maybe she was gone. Maybe she wasn't. But I knew one thing for sure. People like her never stop trying to own what they can't understand. So I decided to finish the story myself. I sent every file, videos, reports, court papers to a local journalist. A week later, the article went live. The HOA war that ended in tragedy. It was honest, balanced, and it ended with a line that hit me harder than I expected. Control can make anyone a villain, but letting go makes you human again. Now, when I walk across that bridge, I don't see the fight anymore. I see what survived it. Tell me what you think. Was I right to stand my ground, or should I have just walked away? Let me know in the comments, and if you've ever dealt with your own HOA nightmare, I want to hear that too.